Welcome to Future Strong. My name's Nicky Garcea, and I'm one of the co-founders of Cappfinity. Joined today by my fellow co-host, Lindsey Pollak. Lindsey's going to introduce herself in a minute. Hi, Lindsey.
Hi.
So Future Strong is a LinkedIn Live series that Lindsey and I have curated. And it's really to cover everything to do with global university recruiting, internships, employee development, and everything related to emerging talent. So we have, over the coming weeks, a great series of speakers lined up, but we are also open to speakers that you would love us to interview and chat to. So please give us your thoughts and your feedback after this first session. So I'll introduce Lindsey. Well, I'll let Lindsey introduce herself, but I just want to say that Lindsey and I have been working together over the last 12 months. What a 12 months to be working together it has been, and started off as fellow research partners, now firm friends. Children chat to each other over Zoom whenever they can. Lindsey, over to you.
Thank you so much, Nicky. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on our very first episode of Future Strong. As Nicky said, I'm Lindsey Pollak. I'm the author of 4 books. The latest is Recalculating, Navigate Your Career Through the Changing World of Work, which is a response to, obviously, the COVID pandemic. I'm a brand ambassador for Cappfinity's V platform, which helps students match with employers, build their skills, upskill, and go through work simulations. And it's been just a huge pleasure, despite the pandemic, to work with Nicky and her team. As you heard, we are going to talk about all things related to recruitment. But Nicky, just to start us off, I think we should spend a little bit of time just on a lay of the land. You know, if you think about all of the employers that you work with, the university, career services professionals, obviously, I guess we should acknowledge that you are in the UK and I'm in the United States. Our research covered Asia Pacific, as well as Europe and North America. What do you think are kind of the key themes that you're hearing from, let's specifically focus on employers. What are you hearing? What are the top issues? And obviously some of them are more obvious than others, but if you had to encapsulate, 3 or 4 topics, what's the 30,000 foot view?
Thanks, Lindsey. And I think, kind of reflecting on the last 9 months that we've been doing the research, there are 2 main things that come to mind, but there is also something that I think we've both noted across the talent recruiting profession, and that's been almost an empowerment and a sort of invigoration around talent acquisition. I've seen people take on some really bold stances, some really bold roles during these times, despite the kind of challenges that they've been navigating. And I think that's really placed talent acquisition as we go into 21 in quite a new footing. In light of that, I think there are 2 things that stand out, and I think everyone listening in would probably feel and have seen these things. But the first one is around the level of innovation that we've seen and noted with the talent acquisition professionals we've spoken to and the campus recruiters. And then the other one is a level of seriousness and commitment to diversity, inclusion. To speak first of all to the innovation, I think you and I on a couple of presentations talked about how no one wanted to kind of let a crisis go to waste, that they were going to innovate and make change. And I think that we just saw that in so many ways. One of the things that I think has been kind of quite transitional is that when the crisis first happened was the speed of response, the level of agility that we saw executed, and the capacity of the teams to maximize whatever they had at their fingertips. It was a level of kind of wartime resourcefulness. They were taking platforms that were never meant to deliver global assessment centers or final stage interview or on-campus interviews, and the execution of that and making good with what people had, I think was astounding. What we've then seen is then this transition to there's this longevity then to having to do things virtually. So the innovation has become more substantial. We've seen greater use of technology, greater use of how to run final stage assessment centers using new platforms, fusing different pieces of technology. And also then from a diversity perspective, a similar mindset, in the sense that this has evoked something that for most of the people that you and I have spoken to has always been important to them. But I was reflecting back, you'll remember the session where we shared the research findings on the week that George Floyd was killed. And you and I think, noticed a level of seriousness that just came across the call while we were delivering the research. And this commitment that came from the individuals, global individuals, all really now focusing in on social, racial injustice, recruiting more Black talent. And it seemed like there was a real pivotal change. And that's what we have then seen through the action in the campaigns that people have been working on since September, particularly for US, UK, and Europe, slightly different with our colleagues in Australia. And that commitment has, I think, shown some just like a continued view that they want better prepared candidates, that they're going to invest much more in widening every place that they can find diverse individuals, Black individuals. So there's this preparation piece, there's a commitment to the types of assessment, that the criteria will be analysed, that there will be item level analysis across everything that they're looking at. And that also, as they onboard talent, that they will really commit to doing that in a new way. And I think that it's been fantastic to observe. It's also amazing to see the continued momentum and that level of seriousness we felt that day on that call just now seems to be translating into action. So the innovation and diversity, but also this empowerment of talent acquisition seems big. What about from your perspective? What things have really stood out for you?
So I'm thinking back to our research as well, and there's so much in there that you spoke about. We spoke to 50 people, and I think to your point, how quickly people pivoted. One of the things that I just keep reflecting on now that we're 9 months in is work got done. I mean, nothing stopped. The gears kept grinding. People were onboarding. People were doing internships. People worked. And it's sort of extraordinary. I don't know if you're as old as I am to remember Y2K in 2000 when we thought the world was going to stop. And it was like, no, things are kind of still working.
It was my 21st birthday, that New Year's Day. I thought I was going to either become 21 or not, but we weren't sure.
New Year's Day is your birthday. See, we learn everything new on Future Strong, breaking news. So I just remember that feeling of like, oh, it didn't stop. We kept going. And I really feel that tremendously. And I think what it did do, to your point, is it reordered the priority of certain things that maybe were on the back burner, like social justice, like hiring more Black talent. We can no longer say that, oh, we'll get to that, or that will happen. It is absolutely urgent and it is being measured. And I think we're seeing that come to the forefront, as it should have for years, but finally is. What I'm concerned about is, because work is getting done, what are we not seeing? And that's where I look at the humanity piece, which is, just because the productivity is there and the numbers are there, what's actually happening to individuals who are staring at their screens all day? And I think we're starting to see some of the burnout. I think we're starting to see the mental health concerns, the isolation that people are feeling. I'm really concerned about winter. When you can go outside, I think, and the days are long and bright, it's really different. And so I think there's going to be, more attention moving forward on those issues that we sort of were worried about, but we didn't have time to think about because we had to get work done. And I remember from our interviews, a lot of companies, I think, are being very proactive about those issues. So we spoke to one bank where they said, instead of new hires getting one mentor, they're getting 4, and 4 senior people will be checking on the junior people every week to make sure that they're doing okay. Many more mental health resources, top leadership talking about their own isolation, loneliness, mental health struggles. I think that's so important. And so I think another theme that really came out that I think is going to start to be more prominent as we're in this sort of new winter wave, waiting for the vaccine, is that combination of technology and humanity. We're getting the tech right. We're doing a lot really well. Who does that leave behind? How do we manage that? And something I think you and I both really had an aha moment was how many people said, I'm picking up the phone more. I'm doing more phone interviews. There's a piece of this that cannot just happen through technology. And so I think, the themes that are coming out to me are absolutely the diversity, equity, and inclusion piece, tremendous opportunity for innovation, but don't lose the humanity and the mental, psychological piece of this just because all of that has moved to the forefront. What do you think of all that?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the things that aren't getting done or that there hasn't been time to attend to are kind of a big focus not a big focus, are the things that are most concerning. In terms of thinking about how you have responded, the things that you have done, what has it made you kind of reconsider, reevaluate in your own work, Lindsey, and maybe kind of thinking about your research?
It's so funny. I worked with a life coach many years ago named Maggie Mistel, and I would go on and on and on and complain. And she'd say, what are you going to do about it? And I think that that's a really important question. I did absolutely feel compelled to action. And I was really, really heartened. I think it was way back in March or April that Google announced that one of the top searches on the platform when COVID hit was, how can I help? And I think so many of us had that instinct. To me, I've taken my strengths profile from Cappfinity. My number one strength is narrator, as you know well.
I was going to share that with people. You've beat me to it.
I did. I know your birthday now. Everyone knows my number one strength. And so my gut was, how do I tell this story? How do I connect with people? How do I help people through storytelling? I immediately got much more active on LinkedIn, which I think if you had asked me, what would you do in a crisis? That would not have been my first gut instinct, but it felt like a very communal place to be. Sort of away from all the political stuff on Twitter and Facebook. So I got much more active on LinkedIn, and glad to be here on LinkedIn Live, of course. And I started to ask people what they needed. And I put out a survey, how can I help? And over, it was, I just need a job. I'm terrified of losing my job, whether it was a college student, a recent graduate, someone mid-career, somebody senior. I'm terrified of losing my job, and obviously the unemployment rates skyrocketed. And so I spoke to my literary agent and said, I have an idea. And she said, I thought you would. And I wrote this new book, Recalculating, which is based on that sort of concept of being in your car and you're going the wrong way, or something happens that you didn't expect, like COVID. And you have to recalculate and you have to rethink everything, whether you are 18 years old, just starting university, whether you are in your 40s, whether you're in your 70s and want to come out of retirement. And so to me, the issue now is, how do we act in uncertainty? How do we act when we don't know where things are going? And my mantra and the real theme of the book is control what you can. And so I think what we're also hearing from employers is, here's what you can do. You can upskill yourself. And we'll talk about what Cappfinity is doing. You can maintain your network, right? You can help other people. And so I really have moved the focus immediately to action, as terrifying and awful as this is. And it absolutely is. And I think we need to consistently acknowledge the trauma is, well, what can we do every day to move forward? And that's kind of what's kept me going. And one of the ways that you and I connected is you had the exact same instinct, which is how we reached out to each other in March. Can you talk a little bit about what you personally and what Cappfinity are doing to address this issue? You're right in the center of it with your products. So I think it makes sense for you to be taking action as well, of course.
Yeah, thanks, Lindsey. I have to say as well, you always have the best titles for your books. When I saw you at NYU last year and you were talking about remix, and I was old enough to have, remix tapes, I was just like, that is the best title. So you have another. One of the things I think that, so my top strength is adventure, and that's been quite hard this year because they have had to be house-based adventures. But one of the things I think it's made us reflect on as a team at Cappfinity is, over the last 15 years, what are the things that we have seen and learned from that have really helped individuals? Our mission is strengthening the world. It's something that Alex and I and the team think about daily in terms of the actions that we take. And I think this year it made us really reflect deeply as a business. So in parallel to this research, we also gave away Strengths Profile for free. 25,000 people took Strengths Profile, found out what their strengths were. And hopefully at those points in times, it really supported people with their development and reflection. One of the things that we had always known was that if individuals who might be feeling low in confidence, might not have the strongest access to career services, might not have mentors, might not have networks, if they can discover their strengths, it has, because these are things that you're good at and you find energizing and you want to use, it has a very powerful impact on confidence and well-being. So we absolutely wanted to bring that into a solution for as part of our reflection on this year. So in conjunction with people like yourself and Trudy Steinfeld and the rest of the team, we decided to build this platform called the Virtual Experience and Engagement Platform, V. And V essentially does three things, and it helps students in three ways. The first one really speaks to the discovery of strengths in support of understanding what careers you can perform, what things you're going to excel at if you can focus on your strengths. And we know that for diverse talent, it will also have this confidence and well-being aspect. The second piece, and you've spoken to this, is all about the upskilling element. So in Upskill, we have 5 key skills that we know our recruiters over the last 10 years look for in the talent that they recruit. So there's the opportunity to fine tune your analysis, your collaboration. And then the final component of V is about giving individuals kind of instant virtual work experience. So our first V partner is Accenture. You can go onto the Accenture V, you get 25 minutes in the showcase section to experience the world of Accenture. And you are then able to be matched potentially to roles there. If you're not successful, you get feedback the whole way. So our hope is with this platform that regardless of where you are, particularly regardless of what university you attend, what school you've gone to, you will be able to have open access for free to your strengths, to getting upskilled and having some quick and short work experience to prepare you for work. And that's something that we're really seeing, to my point earlier, that really key bit about preparation is all encapsulated in V.
And for listeners and viewers who want to see V or try V or learn about V, how can they do that?
They can just log on to www.cappfinityv.com and just a password and your email address, and they will have access.
So, Nicky, I talked about how I am using my strength, and I will take any self-assessment test in any magazine ever. I love self-knowledge, but one of the things I absolutely loved about Strengths Profile was it helped me to understand that I'm not just good at narrating, I love it, right? So it sort of reminded me there are things that you can be good at that you just don't really enjoy. And I love that combination. And I want to put you on the spot with adventure, because that would seem, as you said, counterintuitive during COVID. But you told me several months ago how you were kind of rethinking that strength, not just because it's something that comes naturally to you, but it would actually help you get through this. So can you talk about how you've implemented adventure during COVID?
Thank you for doing that and putting me on the spot. So one of the things, as many parents, and my kids might make an appearance shortly, was the homeschooling and running a global business and making sure that we all stay okay. And so I redid my strengths profile during the point where we were giving everyone access to it, and re-understood how strong adventure was on my profile. And it just gave me a lot of hope that perhaps the adventure would be that I could navigate the homeschooling and still doing a good job for clients. Probably the clients are chatting now and going, no, she was completely distracted. but I found that I would learn something about the Vikings, I would learn phonics, and then I would go and run research calls with you. That was going to be my adventure. So it was going to be a new type of adventure. But knowing that I had that as a strength meant that suddenly something that was initially I felt like was a problem wasn't anymore, essentially. So that was my own recalculating.
I love that. And it reminds me of a lot of the conversations we had with employers across tech, across financial services, law, pharmaceuticals, so many industries, of professional associations. It was often the little aha moments and the little projects and ideas that really moved the needle on employee engagement, on inclusion. Can you talk, or why don't we each just share a couple? What were some of the memories you have of some of the specific examples of what really progressive, successful companies were doing to get through COVID? And sometimes it was the smallest stuff that they did kind of on a whim that really made a difference.
So you know this because as a positive psychologist, I love random acts of kindness because they have such a strong kind of impact on well-being. So to stick with my adventure strength for a second, Accenture as an organization sent their interns who were about to start with them, knowing it was going to be a virtual internship and knowing that none of them could go on holiday. They sent them all a virtual internship passport. And that passport was going to get collected events, activities that they had done at a point where they couldn't travel literally. So their traveling was essentially through their virtual internship at Accenture. I thought that was really cleverly done. Other companies were sending graduation medals to individuals who weren't graduating. So the thing that struck me was not just the things that went out to individuals, it was the care and the empathy of that act of kindness that went, which I think was really thoughtfully done, and had such a strong impact. We saw some brilliant things once interns started. I don't know if you want to share some of those.
Yeah, I want to jump on empathy. I was so struck, and I had this emotion thinking about the students who would not get a graduation and would not get that first day of work. I will never forget my first day walking into my first job in my new suit and my uncomfortable shoes, and having my desk and going to the office supply closet. There was so much empathy for that, of people remembering that moment and really wanting to make it special or acknowledge that loss. And I think that continues. And I really want it to continue for the class of 21. Some are graduating in December, some are graduating in the spring, that we don't lose that, because this has gone on for a while. One of the small moments of empathy that I really was struck by is how many people who had nice homes and home offices who realized that a lot of the students and entry-level talent would not have spaces in their homes that they were proud to show off. And so they committed to giving everybody a virtual background that no matter how beautiful your background in real life, you would use so that everybody was on the same playing field with their visual look at home. And I thought that was just such an easy, small, no-cost change that makes a huge difference for the people who need it. So those moments of empathy really stood out to me. What other examples do you have?
I think the one that went viral was the Spotify playlist that was from GDIT. And they were just asking interns and graduates that were joining to nominate songs. It's a bit like your remix book. Mm-hmm. And they were then just sharing these playlists. And I think that this sort of just really small unifying thing of sharing your favorite song when you start just got a complete traction of its own, which, regardless of this experience, some of these things I hope will stay because they create a connection and community in the simplest idea.
And it's so multi-generational. It's really hard to find something that crosses generational lines. I think the same is happening with Netflix lists of, what's in your queue. Did you get the email, Nicky, from Spotify telling you what your number one most played song of 2020 is? Because I got mine.
I did not. What was yours?
Anyone who knows me knows I'm a bit of a musical theater nerd. So it was The Room Where It Happens from Hamilton, which is like 4 years old now, and I still listen to it pretty much every day.
Still very impressive, very impressive.
But I have to tell you, from a clickbait standpoint, when I got this email, Spotify wants you to know, click here to find out your number one played song. I could not click fast enough. So I think there's something about music that just brings people together. And, as we're kind of coming to the end of our time, I'm really thinking about the holidays and random acts of kindness and rituals at the end of the year. Have you seen your clients, or I know I'd love to hear or have you share what you did at Cappfinity around the Thanksgiving holiday in the US. How are you approaching, this very unique moment in a very unique time.
Yeah, and it was Tuesday Giving this week as well, wasn't it? So one of the things we've been doing this year, and my colleague will smile if he listens back to this, because we've normally sent Panettone's Italian Christmas cake, which for many years he's been telling me are a little stale. So this year for Thanksgiving, we nominated 3 charities and sort of donated in honor of our client base to 3 charities, and we will do the same globally for other holidays as well. I think the other things that we're seeing people doing, even in our own teams, is gratitude walks. So they can't do a Christmas party, so they are walking wired in 2 colleagues, and they're giving thanks and sharing gratitude moments from the year to each other. So we're seeing really, I think, much more meaningful. Somebody, I think a conference I was at the other week, was talking about the level of purpose that has come out this year. Out of the strengths profile research, gratitude was a very, very high strength. So regardless of everything that's happening. So certainly this year, I think we're seeing more charitable thought, more gratitude, more purpose as we move into 21. What about you, Lindsey? What things are you noting?
So similar. And I remember that from the research that the strength of gratitude had expanded, globally, which is so powerful. Something I've always been asked is, how do you find a team building holiday exercise that is truly inclusive and particularly multi-generational? And it can involve drinking. It can involve a physical activity, but what it can always involve is charity and giving and philanthropy and paying forward. And so I think for years, the companies that are really succeeding are thinking about their communities. One very small example is a financial services firm, found that a lot of times it was the senior leaders who were choosing the charities that, were getting the dollars from the organization, and they switched that. And they allowed all of their employees to nominate charities and causes that were meaningful to them for volunteering and donations. And I think that that crowdsourcing, so to speak, of charities and causes is really powerful. I'm doing a very similar thing with donations for my client base, and I've received nothing but positive feedback. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that.
Thanks, Lindsey. Just as we come to close, I was wondering if there was anything you would reflect on in terms of what you've seen some of the best candidates do this year, some of the best candidate action that you've seen.
So, of course, as we're coming to the end of our time, as Nicky knows, I'm in rural Connecticut and there's a train, and I knew it was going to go by right during our LinkedIn Live. So there it is, right on time. I was hoping you wouldn't ask me another question. What am I seeing the best candidates doing? Number 1, applying to jobs.
The good news is we can see the train as well.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah.
You've got the visuals.
Yes, they wanted to be on TV. They wanted to be on LinkedIn Live. So what candidates are doing, number 1, is applying for jobs. My colleague, Garcea at the University of Miami in Career Services said, whenever any student or alum comes to his center, the first thing he says is, have you applied for anything yet? Stephen Isherwood of ISE in the UK said, in the global financial crisis, people stopped applying to jobs because they were paralyzed and thought there weren't any. There are absolutely jobs. So number 1 is applying for positions. Number 2 is really understanding the power of networking. This is an opportunity for people to tap into their alumni networks of universities, to their friends and family. One of the big trends is college students and recent grads posting on LinkedIn and even TikTok and Snapchat and Instagram and wherever. I'm looking for a job. Here's what I need. So I think tapping into the power of social media in this very dispersed time in order to activate your network for a job. You might not actually send your resume on Facebook, but that's where you form the connection that leads to the job. I think we're seeing a real elevation of social media in the job search process, and Gen Zs and younger millennials are just perfectly positioned for that. So I would say go with your strength of where you feel comfortable and tap that for your career.
Thanks, Lindsey. Thank you. Sorry for sharing that question with you. I didn't quite hear the train at the perfect point.
I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. It was destiny.
You have to put it in action. So this brings our first session of the series to a close. Thank you for everyone who is watching and who is going to watch back. We would love, as I said at the beginning, nominations for other individuals that you would like us to bring in to the Future Strong series. it's very much a series about helping to start 21 strong for everybody who is working on commitment to emerging talent, ensuring that there's diverse talent as we go forward into the new year. Hope everyone has safe weekends. Would love to receive feedback. Lindsey, thank you for being here and your support throughout this year. Looking forward to next week and interviewing some guests.